saying marching down the streets asking for papers, both, that's authoritarian.
And I think along those lines, well, listening to this, what are they here doing? Because they're not supposed to be here for law enforcement purposes. And purposes that are not defined. So say, I think the National Guard has reality.
It's about a pretext, as you just said, to send our military troops into our city. To do with those troops ahead of the 2026 election should scare anybody. I mean, where his numbers have been higher than 38, 35, 38, 39, 41, and 39. Immigration, he's in the tank. He's at 35%. So why are they doubling down on the thing that is unpopular and abandoning any pretext of this crime?
Right. Homicide rates are down in Portland again, for example. You can go at city by city, and it just doesn't, if you're looking at the crime statistics, it doesn't quite make sense. Portland as opposed to other cities, but that is what the White House is doing. And on the immigration front, look, it was earlier this month that Fox showed on Monday images out of Portland that were a mix of some more recent demonstrastrations of dozens of individuals, but also twisted in with those videos were videos until the summer of 2020, and the president the next day is when he really turned his attention to Portland. And we should note his labor secretary, Lori Chavez DeRaymer. She was actually a congresswoman from South Portland up until she lost her re-election bid this last November, and she was one that was calling for federal intervention. And right about that point in time, is when President Trump suggested that he believes the National Guard should be sent in here. And I think when you're looking demonstrations that have existed, they've been relatively small, upwards of maybe 100. And you know, I know that anybody that is listening in Oregon can objectively say that the idea that the president is trying to promote about it being war ravaged just doesn't mean a reality. It was there back in May, and this is a moment here where the president is using, whether it be Chicago or Washington D.C. or Portland, we have now multiple cases in which he is frankly spreading falsehoods about the realities of these American cities, and moving forward with these, the use of the National Guard, really with only the courts being a potential one to intervene, but in the meanwhile, the courts not moving in a swift fashion to stop these actions. I think Portland is another example there of whether the courts will step in here at the request of the Oregon governor.
I don't usually spend this much time on the polls, but I do spend all my day trying to understand why in their world, in their heads, they're doing what they're doing. And deporting adjudicated violent criminals, according to New York Times Siena, has the support of 87% of Americans. Everything else is almost an 80-20 issue. People who are married to American citizens, people who have American-born kids, and people with jobs. Anywhere from about 65 to 80% of Americans oppose deporting all those groups our neighbors and community members, and yet that's where the bulk of the deportations are hitting. What is your sense of why they are doubling and tripling and quadrupling down on the least popular part of their immigration agenda?
Well, this is what happened. This is what happens when you live with a lie. And the lie they told during the campaign is that they were going to be able to deport millions and millions and millions of people that were all hardened, dangerous criminals that had come across our border. And if you spent any time at the border at all and looked at the people who were coming across the border asking for asylum, hardened criminals would not be in the first 20 descriptors. And yes, I'm sure there were that were bad guys. And they have now set up a system that they got to do 1,000 a day. They've got to arrest 1,000 immigrants a day. Well, you run out of criminals pretty quickly when you put those kinds of requirements on a law enforcement entity now that is FBI agents instead of people from the military. Hiring a massive amount of people. It is going to draw the rest of federal law enforcement, Homeland Security. And I don't think Americans signed up for that either. And Vaughn made a really good point about Portland. Portland has born in 2025.
Deployed U.S. cities. Donald Trump will now also include that with the Secretary of Defense in front of generals. And tomorrow is very important, right? We'll look ahead to that. Plus, it's not just former FBI Director Jim Comey. Our new AI, one he handpicked for the job, Christopher Wray. We'll get to that a lot more. White House continues after this break. Go anywhere.
With exclusive music specials, Grace and acoustic mixes, Brownie, Oktoberfest fun, plus decade spanning homecoming kits, live football, and more. Find the perfect sweater weather soundtrack and collections handpicked for the season. Just search all in SiriusXM app.
Sorry for whispering, but my wife is asleep. She used to toss and turn all night with CPAP, but then she got the Inspire implant and, well, listen for yourself. She also has more energy to do the things she's always wanted. I gotta get we're hiking people now, the poles and everything. And in winter, we're getting snowshoes. If CPAP doesn't work for you, check out the Inspire implant. Find a provider and view safety info at inspiresleep.com.
In the age of AI, smarter threats need smarter protection. CrowdStrike Charlotte AI is delivering the future of cybersecurity, what's now and what's next. Built on the intelligence of every breach we stop and refined by human expertise, Charlotte AI gets smarter so your business stays safer. So you can build efficiency and protect matters most. That's why businesses you trust CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike. We stop breaches.
Switching to Progressive is a game-winning call. And that reminds us of other game-winning calls in the history of sports.
It was a doubleheader and didn't really hot inside the concession stand. And with me, I figured I'd walk around yelling,
Yeah.
and that's how I became the first hot dog vendor in sports.
Okay, good call. You can make one too. Switch to Progressive and you could save hundreds. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates not available in all states.
If you're one of the millions of Americans behind on your taxes, if you're afraid to open your mail because IRS collection letters could be coming, listen.
until it's too late. Whether it's lines of credit, term loans, working capital funding, or revenue-based financing, LendSeek is open for business. Apply now. LENDSEEK.com. Scammers, stalkers, criminals. Tired of being a target? Take your privacy back with Incognito. We remove your personal data from websites across the web, making it harder for them to reach you.
Oh man.
Because if they can't find you, they can't harm you. Get 1 year of Incognito Unlimited for 55% off today at Incogni.com. That's INCOGNI.com.
All right, welcome back. Kim Jeffries, second by Crows at the White House. Let's listen.
We met with the president for the first time since all of these issues started, even though we have requested repeated meetings with Leader Thune, Speaker Johnson, and the president. We have very large differences on health care and on their ability to undo whatever budget we agree to through decisions and empowerment, as well as pocket decisions. And I think for the first time, the president heard our objections and heard why we needed a bipartisan bill. Their bill has not one iota of Democratic input. That is never how we've done this before. When I was leader, we negotiated 4 times with Republicans, and we never had a shutdown. And so it's up to the Republicans whether they want to shut down or not. We made to the president some proposals. Our Republican leaders will have to talk to them about them, but ultimately he's the decision maker. And if he will accept some of the things we ask, we think the American people are for, on health care and on decisions, he can avoid a shutdown. But there are still large differences between us. There was a frank and direct discussion with the President of the United States and Republican leaders, but significant and meaningful differences remain. Democrats are fighting to protect the health care of the American people, and we are not going to support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of everyday Americans. Full stop. There's a Republican opposed healthcare nursing homes and community-based health clinics all across the country, in rural America, urban America, small town America, and Black and brown communities throughout this country. And that crisis is happening right now. And that's keeping the government open, reaching a bipartisan spending agreement of the American people in terms of their health, their economic well-being, and quality of life, while also addressing the dangerous laid out to the president some of the consequences of what's happening in healthcare. And by his face, and by the way he looked, I think he heard about them for the first time. The closing of rural hospitals. The fact that so many clinics are closing. And I don't know if he knew this before, but the fact that people will pay $4,000 more a year, $400 more a year, close to $5,000 more a year on their health care for no anything. And people don't know what to do. The average family can't afford that. I told him how I met a mother who was crying to me because her daughter had cancer. And what has happened with health care, what they have done, she's going to watch her daughter suffer and maybe die. And so he seemed to, for the first time, understand the magnitude of this crisis. And we hope he'll talk to the Republican leaders and tell them we need bipartisan input on health care. Negotiate. Johnson didn't negotiate with Hakeem. And on the keys, talked about 3 of the smaller bills. They said the Republicans couldn't agree and said, kick it up to the 4 leaders. They still have to talk. And let me say, we're deadly serious. The Republican Party is a deadly serious issue. 20 million Americans and Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax benefit to Americans. That's what
service I just really appreciate it. I don't know your House bill with a couple Democratic votes left town. Not Senate Democrats are for this threat that they for potential shutdown, or are they going to try to find a way here in their comments there?
Well, unfortunately, I have a democracy and rhetoric that doesn't match.
Days like soldiers, and again, whether or not the plans to bomb and obliterate fishing boats off Venezuela without evidence that they're actually drug carriers is happening in the name of the military. I mean, what they're doing under Trump and Hegseth is one bucket of things. What Trump and Hegseth are allowing people to see as militarized operations is another. How is that weighing on the military?
Right. I listened to your last half hour, Nicole, and it was excellent in terms of the various commentary from different people. But I'll tell you, as a person who wore the call of our country, and all I can think back on is the number of lessons I received on why we that's what we do. The uniforms of the military wear.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess the point and the danger is that people still have greater trust in the military than they do right now, based on most of the research I've seen in ICE agents. And so it seems like there's an effort to use the military. I want to ask both of you about that and why